It is a beautiful Monday morning here in California.
That's lovely.
But we're about to touch on a very hot topic. So I met you, actually, I've only met you virtually, but I met you last year because I read a book of yours called Status Single, which I found really engaging and eye-opening about the 74 million single women in India. And these are women who either have never been married, who are divorced, who are widowed. They are responsible for taking care of their household still. So during this lockdown period, I know you have been very concerned about their financial situations, since they are the breadwinners, mostly in their families. And during this time of increasing furloughs and loss of jobs, we really have a huge problem here with trying to take care of the single women. So talk a little bit about the numbers of single women and what is going on with them today in India.
So it's actually a night time here. And as you said, it's a very hot topic. In fact, I think it's a topic which is not discussed enough in my country because, being single is really not mainstream, despite the fact that there are over 7 crore single women now in India. And this was according to the last census, which was conducted in 2011. So you can imagine that if the census were to be conducted this year, as it was supposed to be conducted before the COVID hit all of us, the numbers would have escalated significantly. Single women, the definition of single, Alka, is actually for the community and for my book, which led to the birth of the community, women who are not legally married. So you could be unmarried like me. I'm 42. I've never been married. You could be a widow, you could be divorced or separated or abandoned. You could be belonging to the LGBTQI population. You could be a trans woman, or whole pie constitutes this population. Yeah, so that whole pie of women actually constitute single women in my country. And actually the lockdown, when it hit at the end of March, when people started experiencing the lockdown, when they couldn't go out of their homes, when the government put restrictions on travel, the first things that we as a community faced were tremendous financial pressure. Because what happened as a result of the lockdown was that people started losing their jobs. And also, people who were in for appraisals, in for, that March year-ending a pay hike or a target variable pay, which they get on the basis of their performance, that was not given to them. Because none of the, and even women who were founders of companies, who were, or even those who were CEOs, had taken over a 40 to 50% hit in their pay. Now you have to understand that for most single women, Alka, they are also the single breadwinners for their families. So a lot of them are mothers, so they had to cough up the session fees for their children. And April is when most schools in India ask us to pay fees for the school, the tuition fees and the session fees. Along with that, there are also women who may not have children, right? But they are caregivers. So they have medical bills for aging, ailing parents, or they have health issues and concerns of their own. A lot of women with disability, for instance, are very much dependent on full-time caregiving because, they cannot even go to the toilet on their own, for instance. And they were still having to pay all these things, right? And still having to pay their insurances. March is year-end for us in India, as all over the world. So, there were bills to be paid. There were EMIs to be cleared. And suddenly the income flow had completely snagged, So that was really the first problem which hit our community, which was financial resources drying up. And coupled to that, Alka, there were also a lot of women who, they are, in entry level jobs. They are older single women, women in their late 40s or even 50s, but they're in mid-level jobs, or because, they've had children late, they've had dysfunctional, abusive marriages from which they've exited, and that's taken time. They've kind of done stuff on their own. So for self-employed women, for women in the food and beverage industry, for women in PR and events, for women even like me who are authors or who kind of organize chat shows or do these kind of talk shows, as you know, I host talk shows as well. For us, it meant a complete, uncertain, bleak future. So
Right.
this financial anxiety, Alka, created a lot of, also a lot of mental anxiety. And, we had women, I mean, being a community founder, I had women reach out to me. Even in the middle of the night, my phone has been buzzing nonstop for the last 2 months. Women also on the verge of doing something absolutely drastic, because they're absolutely isolated. So I think even this term, what we are using so loosely, social isolation, I just feel that it's really, it's physical isolation, but we should talk about social closeness, because we are already a vulnerable, marginalized, isolated community. So if you keep telling women that, oh, you're socially isolated, you're alone, it's your battle, right? You have to bear the slack of this. It's actually a very scary feeling for women. And then there are
Right.
also women, Alka, who are 60 plus. So,
Yeah.
senior citizens, older single women whose children
Yes.
might be living overseas, who could not come back in time. Or, they are worried that, if they come back, they catch the infection, then they will spread it on to ailing parents. Those women are absolutely handicapped. So the community has faced a huge crisis. I think a financial crisis, a burden of caregiving crisis, children at home. So, just the physical exhaustion of being like all alone and taking care of kids, manning your Zoom calls
Right.
for your work, at the same
Right.
time thinking, oh my God, how am I going to pay rent this month?
Yes. Um, Let me just stop you for a second. If our audience is just joining us, my name is
Right.
Alka Joshi, and I wrote a book called The Henna Artist, which you'll see behind me. And because the main character is a single woman, Lakshmi,
Mm.
she has become a henna artist because she ran away from an abusive marriage and she needed some way to make an income. So this is something she figured out she could do, and she learned how, and she made herself known to the elite community in Jaipur. And because she's so talented, she's able to make a really good living doing this. But
Mm.
she is vulnerable, as are so many single women in India. She's vulnerable
Mm.
because men will prey upon her because they say, oh,
Mm.
here's a single woman I can have sex with, right?
Mm.
Then there's also this whole issue of financial security. She has
Mm.
to make sure that she is making that income, that she is able to build this house finally that she's always wanted to have, that no one can oust her from, which is something that happened when she was very young and put in an arranged marriage. And this happens all over India to a lot of women. They leave a marriage that is not right for them, and then they have to figure out what to do on their own. So this is why
Mm.
I wanted to talk to you. And so Shreemoyee Kundu is a wonderful author, and she is the author of many books of fiction, but this nonfiction book she wrote called Status Single, really, where she interviewed thousands of women, really calls to light this sort of emotional strain that single women have in India. It is far more than the emotional strain of a single woman in the West. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the mental strain on these single women.
Well, I think, Alka, loneliness, I think, is the next pandemic, according to me. If it is not already the existing pandemic along with the COVID. And I think, I of course feel that, women even in marriages in India are very lonely. In fact, if you see the rate of suicides in India, I mean, it's a very dark subject, but since we're on it, the maximum number of suicides in India are by not single women out of loneliness or frustration, but housewives. So, Indian marriages also, I think, are very functional. They're very transactional. Women get married because, they are pressurized by their families to settle down by a particular age. And, we have a very common saying, you may have heard about it, called "Tees ki ho gayi hai." So the moment a woman hits 30, it's like, your biological bomb has burst. It's just not the clock, it's the bloody bomb. And there is also, there is also a lot of societal pressure. Because if you see, Alka, if you look around you, a single woman, despite the fact that today, as I'm going on repeating, there are over 7 crore single women in India, but not, I would say, the percentage of divorced women, the percentage of widowed women, the percentage of, women who have disability, right? Or who have been abandoned is much higher than women like me who've never been married, who are single by choice, right? And I'm allowed to be single. My family is extremely liberated. My mother was a widow herself, as I've talked about it very often, and she was a widow at a very young age, raised me up very courageously, took care of her sick parents, and finally at the age of 44, my mom remarried a man who's over a decade younger to her. And he's a South Indian, my mother's a Bengali. So, different communities, different language, food habits, but she had the guts to do it, right? So I would say that, loneliness is, I think, a woman's companion, Alka. Because, anywhere in the world, women are struggling to be heard. We are struggling to be understood. We are struggling for equality. And of course, we like to think that, oh, I mean, maybe in the West things are better. But when I talk to single people all over the world and I give my lectures, I feel the issues are the same. All single women, face housing discrimination. In India, for instance, that's a big thing. Nobody wants to rent a house to a single woman because there is a fear that what about her character, and also I would say, Alka, there's social curiosity, which I think is very peculiar to Indians. We are very concerned about what's happening in somebody's house. Why is the girl not married? Why did her marriage break up? Why did she come back? Did she not have kids?
Right, and it's not even a hidden curiosity. It is out there in the open. They will blankly ask you, why are you not married? Why do you not have children?
Yeah. So I've always said this, that, in India, no matter how successful a woman is professionally, her marital status never ceases to sort of amuse people, intrigue people, raise the inquisitiveness of the general population. And the parents, for instance, are always probed as if it is their fault that the daughter is still unmarried.
Yes.
And God help you if that marriage breaks, God help you if that marriage breaks, then comes the stigma of being a divorcee.
Right, and the parents and the whole extended family feels the pressure to get that woman married in their household. It's like everybody has a shame and a humiliation around the fact that they have a single unmarried woman in their family. It's an incredible pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, and I think also you have to understand, Alka, we don't have any policy for single women in India. The government does not do anything for us. So, for instance, I was talking to a single woman in Australia who is a cancer survivor. And she was telling me that, see, in my country, Shreemoyee, I have cancer. The state takes care of my entire medical expenses, right? It's taken care of by the state. I get a lot of support as a single mother from the state, for instance, right? Also, if you see overseas, of course, these things are now picking up in India. We also have, in India right now, it's very slow, but it's happening, retirement homes. Like, for instance, if you go overseas, there are communities where even older single women or couples without children, for instance, they can settle down, either a housing society or a community in a particular state. Here, there's nothing. So if a woman is on her own, she is always dependent on her family. And after her parents go, then she's literally at the mercy of her married siblings. And
Right.
in most cases, the brother's wife is ill-treating a single woman, or, she is duped out of the property and inheritance, because they have, women don't even know their property rights in India, because we are so scared that, if we raise our voice, if we try to, claim our inheritance rights, we will be branded as a bitch. Oh, she's aggressive, she's ambitious, she's money-minded, she's, selfish. And the labels. So if you see the cover of my book, I didn't have really a cover. They were just words. And when I finished writing Status Single, I actually ended each interview with the question that, what is that one word which has got stuck to you like a label? Like for me, I've heard this practically all my 42 years, that, oh, you're very choosy and you're very ambitious. Like those are, like not
Like their negative qualities.
Yeah, like my negative qualities. So this term, if you see this term, Alka, settling down, what do you mean by this? It's such a submissive thing to say settling down,
Yes.
as if a woman has to sort of give up all her ambitions. She has to de-glamorize herself, she has to toe the line. She has to not have any material ambition, any career ambition. She just has to be a doormat. She has to be a provider of sex. She has to be the bahu of the family. And
Yes.
basically, this is the expectation from an Indian woman. But still, I'm going to put it on the table, Alka, that it's changing.
Okay, here's a funny comment from, I don't know what the name is. It says, I am a proud, money-minded, ambitious bitch. And,
Good for you.
yeah, I know. And so
Good
this is
you.
a woman who's saying, I am not going to put my ambitions on hold just because the society wants me to be married.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of comments coming through about how important this conversation is. And how, and how it's a conversation that I think a lot of people have never had. I think in India, it is growing largely due to your influence, and you're talking about this issue. And also you're being a single woman yourself. I mean, I remember I didn't get married until I was 35 or 36. I can't even remember now. But, I remember that constant question, are you going to get married? Are you going to have children? As if those are the only two things in my life that are important to me. I was much more concerned about what is the legacy I'm going to leave in my life, and what am I going to accomplish in my life? I wanted to accomplish so much. So,
But actually, Alka, marriage and motherhood are seen as a woman's accomplishments, The fact that, for instance, my mother was asked by one of my uncles that, do you think Shreemoyee is a lesbian? So my mother said, where is this question coming from? And anyway, it's her personal life. But where is this coming from? And he said, no, she only writes on women's issues. Most of her books are, about women. She wrote India's first feminist erotica. And all her friends are either like her, they've never been married, or they're single, they're divorced. So a woman's, I think, the biggest validation of our womanhood is motherhood and marriage. And we are constantly playing a role. We are constantly playing a role in India. You know, we are
Yes.
somebody's daughter first, then we become somebody's girlfriend, wife, companion, then we
Yeah.
become a mother, and we die. Which is why older single women actually are invisible. Their sex life, their ambition, their career, their physicality, their their health issues, their
Yeah.
mental health issues, their search for completion as women themselves, nobody talks about it. So,
Yeah.
the fullness of a woman is equal to, your marriage. You've produced the children, you've got the house, your Facebook albums are with your family, the family
Yeah.
vacation, and that's it. What's happening inside the house? The fact that the woman could be getting beaten up, the fact that
Right.
she could be mentally unhappy, the fact that she could have been forced into motherhood and she never wanted to be a mother. Like birth control in India is not even ever a woman's prerogative, right? Those
Yeah.
things are not important. What
Right.
matters is all is well on the surface.
Here's a wonderful comment from a young woman in Jaipur whom I met. No, it was in Delhi, and she was at college. So she's saying, "Oh my God, I relate with this stigma. Even when you're a young urban woman, if you don't have a boyfriend or are not even in the dating scene, there's a lot of judgment. Like there is something wrong
Yeah.
with you."
Yeah. I hear this all the time that how come a woman who's decently, I mean, I think I look decent. So a decent
You're
looking woman
beautiful.
like you.
You're beautiful.
So a woman who looks like you or who has the achievements that you have, who's a public figure in a sense, how come you don't find anybody? And the tone of that is always a judgment. It's always as if, it's my fault that I didn't find anybody in this 1.2 billion population who was good enough for me. And the truth is I didn't. I mean, until now, I'm 42. I hope I live at least another 20 years, and you never know what happens tomorrow, right? But the
Mhm.
point is this judgmental tone, and
Mhm.
also my friends have asked me, Alka, my friends have asked me, so what do you do for sex? So I said, I have a wonderful vibrator and I'm in a relationship with my sex toy and I love it, and they're appalled. Like, how are you living without a man? Like, don't you feel lonely? Don't you miss talking to a man? Well, I've had relationships. I'm not saying that I'm, this Virgin Mary, this asexual creature. But the point is every woman in a relationship getting a lot of sex? Is every woman in a relationship emotionally nurtured and fulfilled and supported? Is every woman in a relationship, being able to vocalize things that she wants? I really don't think so. Globally, if you see during the lockdown, the rates of domestic violence have skyrocketed. If every woman was so happy, was so fulfilled, was so, absolutely having the best sex in the world, then why on earth are these statistics coming up now? So we
Yeah.
need to introspect.
Yeah, those are excellent questions that you're asking, as if the world of single women is so very different from the world of
Hmm.
married women. When in
Yeah.
reality, we are just all women. We
Yeah.
all have desires, we all have dreams, we all have things that we want to accomplish, and those should never take second fiddle to another kind of societal structure that we're forced into.
Absolutely, absolutely. I also think that, Alka, one of the things that I would also like to bring up is popular culture in India. Imagine before I wrote Status Single in 2018, there was not a single publisher who felt that there was merit in a book on single women. And
Wow.
if you see the representation of single women in our cinema, in our TV serials, in our web shows, you always show single women as slutty women. You're always showing single women as being sexually promiscuous. There are certain professions which are always shown. The single woman is always a writer or she's a journalist. So creative equals to slutty. That's the link. or you're showing her as a divorced woman. So you're reinstating, you're reinforcing the stigma of divorce again and again. And this is
Yeah.
the reason why in India, the women I interviewed, and there are many women in my community who for the last 10 years, 15 years, 18 years, they've been divorced, but they have not revealed that fact to their organizations. And these are corporations, multinational corporations that these women work in, which have very, very progressive diversity and inclusion policies. But at the end of the day, they haven't been able to create a safe space for a woman to just reclaim her individuality. So popular culture, I blame it because, recently when we did this survey, as you know, we did an economic survey on the financial problems being faced by single women during the COVID lockdown. And I spoke to the editor of Pink Paper for Business Magazine, and he started laughing when I told him the issue. He said, "But what problems do single women have? You people don't have to, take your husband's whims and fancies. You don't have to look after in-laws. Most of you women don't like children, and you get a fat alimony from your exes, which is not the case, by the way. I don't see you people are drinking. It's like Sex and the City, it's a jolly good time. You're wearing Zara clothes, you're putting on makeup, your hair always looks good. There's no problem." So
Yeah.
I will blame, the content creators of this country, whether they are filmmakers or whether they are, on the digital platform. We don't want to show the reality of 74 million urban single women. We want to create copies, cheap imitative copies of Sex and the City, because Indians we are the godfathers of plagiarism, right? So whatever happens in the West, we love to copy it here. So we cannot create original content. We can't show the lives of single women who are struggling single mothers, who are caregivers, who are on wheelchairs, who are older single women, who are women who have been abandoned. And every single woman is not very rich. Every single woman does not have a child. Every single woman doesn't have a roof over her head. We are
Yeah.
frightened, Alka. We are scared to depict reality in our cinema, in our literature,
Yeah.
in our popular culture, because we cater to a market economy which caters to a herd instinct. So Sex and the City
Yes.
was a hit. Now we have to create the Desi version of that and sell it to a bunch of morons who are watching.
It is interesting how a single woman is either to be pitied or to be shamed because she is either a virgin or she's a whore. There's no middle ground.
Yeah.
Tell
also,
people want to know
women,
how they can get help or where Indian women could turn to get some sort of solace or to get some mental health support.
So they can join my community. We have a very, very vibrant, diverse, and dynamic community called Status Single. And we have a Facebook page called Status Single. It's a Facebook group called Status Single. And once you join that, you can even get in touch with me to join our WhatsApp group. So we have a WhatsApp group called Status Single where we have women from all parts of India and who represent different facets of singlehood, so they're not just unmarried women. They're not just women in their 30s or early or late 20s. We have women who are 60. We have women, older single women. I find this so beautiful that we have women who are 65, 70, who are either widowed or divorced or they have never got married. They are living with their 90-year-old mothers or 87, 88-year-old mothers who have now become single. So two generations of single women. Yeah, it's really beautiful, So basically, they can join the community, as I said, both online and offline. And we also, I would like to say this, that, we have started from today a blog called statussinglesstories.in. So I'm also trying to create a platform where single women from all over the world can share their life experiences, their struggles, their stories of breaking out of bad marriages, of what are the issues they are facing in their workplaces, gender violence, gender discrimination, women with disability speaking up, older single women talking about their lives. Just this one consolidated platform for the real life stories of real single women in this country, and not the women who are shown in a very popular show. It's running on Amazon Prime right now, called Four More Shots, which is just, according to me, a really badly written show which demeans women, which reinforces the same stereotypes again and again, and really does nothing for single women in India. It's created for a mass audience by a bunch of women who live in South Bombay. And their life is all about sipping wine and having affairs with married men, and sort of going on holidays to Goa. When our life struggles, nobody really has had the balls to depict it as of now, and that really disappoints me about this country.
Wow. Well, I'm just so grateful that you talked to our audience this morning. I think this is a really important conversation, and we can always go to your websites, which are Status Single Forum.
Stories.in. Yeah. So I'll just repeat it. Yeah, so you can follow me on Insta or on my page, which is Shreemoyee Kundu. You can also join the Status Single community on Facebook, and the page is called Status Single. And you can also follow the blog, which is statussinglesstories.in. And we just launched it this morning in India. And, I would love it. In fact, Alka, I've been getting so many requests from single men in this country that, Shri, are you also creating a platform for single men in this country? Are you thinking of a book for single men? Why don't you allow single men into your community? So I just feel, Indian men also have to, see, we are all victims of patriarchy, I think, at the end of the day. And men are also trapped voiceless, sometimes, because they have been conditioned to playing a certain gender role, So it would be great if, men also contribute to at least the blog. And gradually, as time goes by, maybe we can extend the community of single women to also include, it can become a community of single people and not just single women, because I would, for instance, love it to have equal participation and diversity, as I said, which has always been a very key ingredient of my life and the movement.
There's a wonderful comment here from Mr. Kazan. A male-dominated society has intentionally subverted the voice of women. A lot of us men have to undo our programming and relearn a new code that's created by both genders. Mr. Kazan, I challenge you to go on Shreemoyee Kundu's blog and her website and join in the conversation, because she's absolutely right. We need both genders to talk about this issue. And I'm sure there's a lot of single men out there who are neither women haters or rude or, and they want to learn. They want to be better citizens of this society and to treat women with more respect. So I think you're right. There's a lot of, and there's single men out there just like there are single women. So let me point this out again. So I wrote a book called The Henna Artist, which has a lot of different women in it. These are women who either want to be married or don't want to be married, women who want a job, don't want a job, women who want children, don't want children. I tried to have a lot of women's voices in this book of fiction. And what Shreemoyee Kundu has done is put the single women in a nonfiction format and actually told us the reality of what is happening in this book, which is that single women are either to be pitied or to be shamed in India. And we need to find a better way to respect them, a better way to talk about this issue. And we also need to give them some financial support, since they are many times the caregivers of their parents or their families, or they're just put in a role, a subjugated role that says you are not worth as much as all of your siblings who got married and had children. Why is that the case? So I want to thank you so much for being here with us. Do you have any last words that you'd like to say?
I think, Alka, single people all over the world, I hope that, someday we can all come together. I have joined a community which is led by a scholar of single people called Bella DiPaolo. She's based in the US. And Bella writes beautifully on single women and men in your country. And I think, we have to realize that actually, we are women at the end of the day. So as you said, be it a married woman or a single woman, we have to deal with issues of mental health, issues of women's safety, issues of equality and equal pay at work, issues of, standing up against sexual violence, harassment, molestation, rape. So these are universal issues, I think, that women face. And like I said, when I look at a man and a woman, single men also go through loneliness. Single men also play the role of caregivers to their aging, ailing parents, sometimes to their siblings. And the expectations from men, especially in India, is absolutely another mind map or maze. Because men are expected to have children, to marry, to procreate, like that's their mardangi. So we have to change, the gender constructs, And one thing which I believe in is that community and conversation are critical to change. So I'm glad that, you through your book, which also looks at a community and ecosystem of women, and me through my work on ground, and of course the book that started it all, Status Single, we are able to both in our own ways. See, today you and me talking, we are also a small tribe, a small community, and we are part of a much larger ecosystem. So I want to say to single women all over the world, or single people all over the world, that please don't think that, you are lonelier than a married person. Loneliness or singlehood, it's a state of mind. It's not a life condition. It's not an imprisonment. It's not a reflection of you, your failures, your family, your career ambition. No. It's important also that we redefine companionship. Companionship just doesn't mean finding romantic companionship. Companionship is about developing hobbies. Companionship is about being economically self-sufficient so that you can travel, is about having a healthy group of friends, and also being aware of your own soul and being confident and brave enough to take on whatever life throws at you. Whether you're in a relationship, whether you are like me, you've never been married, or you're getting out of a bad marriage, at the end of the day, be self-partnered and be proudly self-partnered and hold your head up high.
Oh, I love that. That is a wonderful way to end this conversation. You can find Shree's wonderful book, Status Single. I found it on Amazon. And of course, that is where you'll also find the Henna Artist. You will find it at all local bookstores. And you'll find probably both of our books on bookdepository.com and wherever it is you find books. So thank you, Shree, so much for joining us from, are you in Bangalore or Hyderabad?
No. I'm in Kolkata, and we are actually expecting a cyclone anytime soon. So I'm glad the conversation went well, because we might be having bad weather in the next 1 or 2 days.
Oh my gosh. Oh, well, be well, be safe.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that this time of COVID has really forced us all to do these virtual talks all around the world. I actually think we're getting deeper into conversations as a result of the pandemic than we might have had before. And I think we're reaching broader audiences. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Alka. Thank you.
Namaste.
Bye. See you. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye, guys.